In this video, we're going to do an example of using a class in our Java file or in our Java program. And the class that we're going to write in this example is a length converter. This is going to be a class that doesn't have a lot of data in it. It's just kind of one piece of data, which is a millimeters value, and then it's going to have a bunch of methods in it to convert all of those to convert that millimeters value into a bunch of different other measurements: inches, feet, miles, centimeters, meters, and kilometers. So we're going to write a class called length converter. We're going to write a single constructor, which takes a value. We're actually going to make that a double value for millimeters. And then we're going to implement all of these methods in the length converter class to get inches, get feet, get miles, and it's going to take the millimeters and convert it to the appropriate unit type. So we're going to write that in a length converter.java class in our program, and we're going to have a presentation layer that will prompt the user for the number of millimeters, and then we'll just do print lines for each of the values that we're converting to. All right, so let's do this. So let's go to JDoodle. Now, when we create a multi-class file, multi-class program in JDoodle, we have one extra step in creating the project, and that we want to pick a multi-file project type. This will allow us to add more than one .java file to our program. And then we're still going to start with the example code. Okay, so now we get a slightly different view on JDoodle. We get this extra panel here, which has all of the files that are included in our Java project. So we get myclass.java here. This is the default one that we've been using. As we add other classes here, we'll add them here in this panel using this add button here. We can also hide this panel and view the panel by clicking these icons so that we can get more room as we code. Okay, so pretty standard approach. Go ahead and delete this stuff. I'm going to need a scanner, so let's go ahead and import that. And let's go ahead and do the code to actually collect the millimeters from the user, because we're gonna have to do input validation on that. So we need to write a get positive double method. So let's go ahead and do the scanner. Let's see, var sc equals new scanner system.in. Okay, and then I want to get a value of millimeters using it's going to be a double value, and I'm going to use a get positive double method to do that. So let's go ahead and write that. Let's hide this for now so we can see more code. So that's going to be double millimeters equals get positive double, and we're going to send the scanner, and we're going to send a prompt that says, please enter the number of millimeters. Okay, and then we're going to write the get positive double. So we have written this before in other examples. The code is going to be exactly the same as what we wrote before, but I'm going to walk through it again just so that we can get more practice in typing code. The more code you type, the better at writing programs you get. The more code you type, the better coder you are. Or the better coder you will become. So you want to always spend a lot of time writing code. So with that said, if you wanted to go back to your other example and just cut and paste the get positive double in here, that would work, and it would be just fine. Okay. Public static, it's going to have a return type of double. It's going to be called get positive double. It's going to take two parameters. First one is a scanner. The second one is a string that we'll call prompt, and get the block set. Okay, let's correct the spelling mistakes there. I've also so let's keep going. So then we want to we want to do a while true loop. This is an input validation loop. Get the blocks. The first thing we do is the output. Then we want to get a string from the scanner. Then we want to do a try catch to try to convert that to a double. So we'll do double dot value equals double dot parse double input. If that fails, then we want to catch number format exception called E, and then we'll just have a message that says that's not a valid numeric. Okay. So if the double parses correctly, then we want to test to make sure it's positive. So we'll do a second input validation. If value is greater than 0, then return it. I'm not spending a lot of time just explaining the get positive double because we've done it before, but this is a good opportunity to just type more code. If it's not greater than 0, then we'll put a message that says it needs to be greater than 0. Okay. So that should work. Let's run that, see if we made any mistakes. I did make one, I think. I misspelled get positive double here. So it says on line 7, cannot find symbol, get positive double. It's because I misspelled that. I saw that while I was writing the code, but I left it there so that we get another opportunity to practice debugging. Okay, let's see. I've misspelled it twice. I left out the I right there in positive. Okay, spelling, misspelled words, misspelled variable names, missing semicolons, and having your blocks out of line. Those are the 3 mistakes you're going to make most often. Let's see. So we have the print here. I used a print instead of a print line. That was kind of an accident, but let's go ahead and lean into it. So let's go ahead and stop there. We can actually take the input on the same line as our prompt. So see, because I used a print here in line 12, instead of a print line, my input is actually just at the end of the prompt. So this works if your prompt isn't too wide and you can get you can still see the input value there. Sometimes it's easier. Maybe it's a little more obvious to the user. Really your choice as you design your user interface. So we're going to use an example of 186,951. So we're just going to enter that every time. And then and I already know what the correct value is for the inches, feet, miles, centimeters, et cetera, for all these. So I'm just going to use the same value every time. But if we entered that, then that should be, in this case, it should just come back where the program is over, okay, because we entered a valid value. We can do another test to make sure that that our get positive double is working. We can enter something that's not a valid double. We should get a message that says that's not valid numeric. I can enter something that's negative. Okay, and I get must be positive if I enter my test value, then the program ends. Okay, so now we've written our get positive double. We've done our input validation. Now we're ready to create our class. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to, right here after we get the positive double, we're going to want to call the constructor for our class. But let's make the class first. So if we go back to our assignment, the class is going to be called length converter, and it's going to have one constructor that takes a value of millimeters. Okay, so we can come back to our program, to our project panel. We can click the plus button here to say I want to add a new class. I'm going to call it lengthconverter.java. Now I'm calling this, notice how I spell it, length converter. It's a class name, so it's going to be upper camel case, starts with a capital L for length, starts with a capital C for converter, and then it's .java as the file name, as the file type, okay? Once I do that, I get another tab here in my editor. So I can click on that and I just have an empty class. So now let me hide the, whoops. Let me hide the method here, or the project panel. So now in length converter, I need to just begin describing my class. It's going to be the same as I described my class here. Okay, only I'm not going to write a static void method, a static void main method. I'm going to write my actual classes. So let's go ahead and type that. Public class length converter. Now the name of the class needs to be the same as the name of the file. So we called it length converter.java. So the name of the class must be length converter and get the block set. Okay. Give myself some space there. Now I'm going to define the instance variable, which is going to be the millimeters that I'm holding. So that's going to be private because it's an instant variable, an instance variable. It's a double, and I'm just going to call it millimeters. Okay. And then I'm going to write my constructor. Remember, the constructor is a special type of method that has the same name of length converter, and it doesn't have a return type. It has an implied return type of an instance of itself. So let's go ahead and write that. Public length converter. And you can see examples of all of this in the book in chapter 7, and in the video, the lecture video that went with chapter 7. So we declare the method, the constructor method, public length converter. It takes one parameter, which is a double of millimeters. Okay, get the block set. Now, because I'm using millimeters as the parameter and millimeters as the instance variable, whenever I refer to this instance variable, I want to call it this dot millimeters. And inside length converter, it's when I say millimeters, it's going to be this variable. When I say this dot millimeters, it's going to be this variable. Okay. This dot millimeters. So all my constructor is going to do is just assign the value in the parameter to the value of the instance variable. And then we can write a getter. So let's write a public get millimeters. Take no parameters, and it will just return this dot millimeters. This is not necessary in this instance because there is no other variable inside get millimeters called millimeters. Unlike here in the constructor where I had a parameter. It's still valid to write it, but it is unnecessary. It is not necessary to actually include that. Okay, so now let's test this. So let's come back to myclass.java. So now let's create an instance of our class. So let's just say, so when we create an instance, we're creating a variable. So we need to give it the data type. Length converter is the data type. We're going to call it myConverter, and it's going to equal new length converter. And we're going to send it the millimeters as the parameter. Okay. Then to make sure it works, let's just go ahead and say system.out.println. Actually, let's do a printf because we're going to want to do format codes on this. Okay, let's do a new line. Let's just say millimeters equals, and then we'll do a format code. We want 1,000 separators. We want 1,000 separators, 2 decimal points for the millimeters, floating type data. And then the value is going to be myconverter dot, spell it right, dot get millimeters. And I use the parentheses because I'm calling it method. Okay, let's run that and see if it works. It should work if I didn't make any mistakes. Okay, I made a bunch of mistakes. Okay, so let's see. The first one is invalid method declaration get millimeters, public get millimeters. So that's in length converter Java 4. It's because I left out the return type. So that's a double. Okay, so let's go ahead and compile it again. I made a bunch of mistakes in this one. Now it says illegal start of expression, and it looks like I've left out the the open quotes on line 9. So that's myclass.java line 9, and I just left out the open quotation marks at the beginning of that printf statement. Okay, please enter the number of millimeters. So now if I enter I don't need to test the invalid entry because I've already done that. And so I know that works. So I won't be testing that anymore. So 186,951 is the value we want to enter. Now it should just parrot back the number of millimeters. Okay. Okay, so now we can go ahead and we can do the other conversion types. So we see in our assignment here, we get inches, feet, and miles. So in inches, 1 millimeter equals 0.0393 inches. So we want to take millimeters and multiply it by this value. Okay, so let's go ahead, go back to our length converter, and let's do get inches. Okay, I'm going to keep my methods in alphabetical order. When you do a data class like this, you typically will keep your methods in alphabetical order, but you'll put your getters and your setters. Some people like to put them together. If you have a getter and a setter for the same value, you would put the getter and the setter right next to each other in the method or in the class. Really, that's your call. However it's best for you is how you should do it. I'm going to put mine in alphabetical order. So I'm going to write a get inches method here, and I'm going to return this dot millimeters times this value. I'm just going to cut and paste it in there. Okay. So that's inches. And then so let's go ahead and put that out on the command line. System.out.printf. New line, inches equals, and then we'll do a format code, 1000 separator, 2 decimal points, floating point. And then we'll say my converter dot get inches. Okay. Let's run that and see if it works. Okay, 186, 951. And we get 7,360.28 inches. So I have done I've validated this number. I've used a converter to actually check this data. So I know that 7,360.28 is the right answer. Okay. But if I put in any other value for millimeters, I would get an appropriate conversion. But I'm using a known value here, 186,951, because I know what the answer should be. So that way I can check my work as I go through this. Okay, so now we can do feet and miles. So let's go ahead and do those. I'm just going to cut and paste this just to save myself some typing. Feet, and that's going to be get feet, and miles. It's going to be get miles. Now for miles, I'm going to give it a few more decimal. I'm going to do 4 decimal precision instead of 2, because if I'm starting in millimeters, it's likely I'm going to have partial miles, and so I want to make sure that I have enough decimal precision there. If I run this now, I should get an error that says get feet and get miles are not found. And that's because I haven't implemented them yet. So it says cannot find symbol get feet and get miles. So we can go back to our length converter and we can implement those. Get feet would be here. Public double get feet. Okay. There are 12 inches in a foot. So what I can do is I can just say return get inches divided by 12. Okay, and for miles, it's going to go here. Public double get miles. And there I can just say return. I know that there's 5,280 feet in a mile, so I can say get feet divided by 5,280. Okay, let's run that and see if it works. $186,951. Okay. Feet working, miles working, and I've already tested this. I know that these are the right answers because I've already I have the known value already, and we got an appropriate level of decimal precision there in miles. So we only have 0.1 miles for 186,000 millimeters. Okay, let's do the last 2 or last 3. We want to do centimeters, meters, and kilometers. Okay, so centimeter, there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, there's 100 centimeters in a kilometer, and there's 1,000 millimeters in a kilometer. So let's go ahead and implement those. We can say Let's just do get centimeters. Centimeters is one word, so I'm not going to camel case it. And here we just want to say return this dot millimeters divided by 10. Okay. So let's just go ahead and do get meters and then get kilometers, and then we'll go ahead and put that into our presentation layer. Public double get meters. This is return get centimeters divided by 100. And get kilometers, kilometers go here. Okay, so when I call get meters here, it's just it's calling this method to get the centimeters, it's calling this method to get the millimeters. So when I actually call get kilometers here, I'm actually going to call two other methods, get meters and get centimeters. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's just compile that to make sure that I didn't make any syntax errors. I did make syntax errors. So that is length converter line 9. Let's go look at that line 9. I left out the return type of my get centimeters method, so that should be a double. So let's run that. That's why it's always good to compile the code, even if you're not done. It's always good to compile and execute the code just to make sure that you haven't made any mistakes. Let's see. So length converter line 10 cannot find the symbol mm. That's because I've used mm. The actual name of the method of the instance variable rather is millimeters. So I used an undefined variable. Made one more mistake. Cannot find symbol get centimeters. Right here at line 26, because I'm calling a method, I need to put the parentheses in there. So I made a bunch of mistakes. So that's a good reason why we should compile the code often as we're writing it. Okay, so the code is compiling and running. I'm not seeing the centimeters, etc., because I haven't actually coded the outputs yet. So let's go ahead and code those. I'm just going to cut and paste again because I'm just trying to save myself some typing. Get so the centimeters. 2 on that, and it's going to be get centimeters. I can go ahead and type this for meters as well. Putting and pasting, but making sure I'm making all the appropriate changes. Kilometers, I'm going to increase the decimal precision on kilometers to 4 because it's going to be a small number. So let's run that to see if it works. 186,951. And then I can compare this to my known output and say that this is correct. Okay, so that's an example of using a class, a two-class Java program. I have a presentation class, which is called myclass.java here, and it's the one that does the input from the input from the user, and then it creates an instance of my length converter class. My length converter class implements all of these methods to do data conversions on the millimeters value. I'm going to change the name of my class. I'm going to call it class experiment. Okay, just so that it has a different name. Save that. If I change the name of my class there, I should also change the name of the file that my class that class is in. Okay, and I'm actually getting an error here that says class experiment is public and should be declared in file name class experiment.java. So what it's telling me is because I changed the name of my class, my presentation layer class, I need to rename the file here. because a class definition needs to be in a Java file that has the same name as the class. Okay, so if I rename the Java file, now when I run it, everything should work as expected. Okay, perfect. Save that, and we're done.